Good evening, the news and sport from ITN. Tonight's headlines. The Bosnian peace talks are under threat as UN forces come under attack. Airlifted out of limbo, the RAF flies 17 Palestinians out of no man's land. And the hunt intensifies for the security guard who disappeared with £1 million.
And tonight's main sports story, Brian Giggs blasts the favourites Manchester United through to the last 16 of the Cup.
Fighting intensified in Croatia today, shattering a year-long ceasefire. It happened as the politicians were talking about how to secure peace in neighbouring Bosnia. Croatian troops are reported to have killed 21 Serb militiamen and a French peacekeeper was seriously wounded. The Serbs responded by raiding United Nations arms dumps for weapons. Both sides have now rearmed and redeployed across the region.
For the second day running, Croatian and Serb forces battled, pounding each other's positions with mortars and artillery around the towns of Zadar and Mostar. The UN forces, supposedly the buffer between the two sides, were left helpless. At one stage, they too were shelled, a French soldier critically injured, and the humbling of the UN's present role made complete by further Serb raids on their stores to retrieve confiscated weapons. In Geneva, Croatian President Tudjman came to talk peace in Bosnia, having left Zagreb only after authorising his forces' role in the fighting of the last 48 hours.
We didn't
start it, they did, he said, in an all too familiar Balkan posture. The Geneva delegations may not enthusiastically embrace the peace faith to which they all claim recent conversion, but on this most difficult day, when the threat of a walkout by one or another seemed likely, they all stayed. There are those who believe that Serbian President Milosevic wears the mantle of peace like an ill-fitting suit, uncomfortably. But he and President Tudjman were brought together, they talked, and tonight they jointly agreed to try and end hostilities. It was the leader of the Bosnian Serbs who summed up the mood.
We are not going to leave the conference, although we have enough reason to leave the conference, both Yugoslav and Serbian delegation, but we are not going to leave it because for the sake of peace.
That the leaders of Serbia and Croatia met and agreed to try and bring about an end to this latest fighting is a tribute to the forcefulness of the would-be peace brokers, Cyrus Vance and Lord Owen. Their hope now is that all delegations will remain here for as long as it takes to try and bring about a final and lasting settlement. Colin Baker, ITN, Geneva.
British helicopters have moved 17 Palestinian deportees out of no man's land in southern Lebanon. 4 need medical treatment, the others were mistakenly expelled by Israel. The Mercy mission coincided with an Israeli airstrike against Lebanon. It was launched after 2 Israeli soldiers were killed in a bomb attack.
After 6 hours of negotiations, RAF Wessex helicopters with Red Cross markings finally loaded 17 of the deported Palestinians to take them back to Israel, leaving behind nearly 400 who've been stranded in no man's land for more than a month with little food and water and few medicines. There were prayers and militant Islamic slogans of defiance from those left behind. At first, none would leave, saying they must all be repatriated together as demanded by the United Nations. Red Cross negotiators persuaded the 17 to board the helicopters. They were brought to the Israeli port of Haifa. 4 were taken to hospital. The rest, who were originally wrongly deported, are being returned to prison. 2 more, entitled to leave, decided to remain, as they put it, with their brothers, prompting a scornful response from the Israelis.
We are going out of our way to allow any humanitarian steps to be taken, and then those same people block it. I think it's outrageous.
United Nations mediator Chinmaya Garakan has been increasing the pressure on Israel's Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin to take the deportees back or face sanctions. The country's Supreme Court will meet to rule on the issue on Monday. Israel's Supreme Court could resolve this crisis and rescue the deadlocked Middle East peace talks simply by ruling that the deportations were illegal. But the last thing the Israeli government wants is these Palestinians returning home as heroes. Glenn O'Glaser, ITN, Tel Aviv.
A policeman has been shot dead in Londonderry, the first member of the security forces to be killed in Northern Ireland this year. He was shot at point-blank range in the back of the head in a street crash.